going on, YouTube? Culturedog Sam Hatch back with another Blu-Ray Spotlight review. This time we're going to be talking about Steven Spielberg's newest film, Bridge of Spies. If you didn't get a chance to see this in the theaters, Tom Hanks, a Steven Spielberg regular, stars as James Donovan, who had been an attorney on the Nuremberg trials and had just stepped away from criminal law, but had gotten dragged back into the courtroom because of a case of a spy named Rudolph Abel, who has a bunch of other names, who got found out by the government and was going to stand trial. And for show, essentially, they needed a competent attorney to prove that he had received a fair trial. And this movie really could have been about so many different things. And even Matt Sharman, who was the screenwriter before Joel and Ethan Coen of the Coen brothers, actually got involved later. And it was cool. They kind of volleyed the script back and forth. But Sharman had discovered this story, but wasn't quite sure how to tackle it because there's so much interesting stuff going on. One, that original origin of Donovan having to defend someone that literally had no desire to see go free, an actual spy. There's a lot of meat to that because he is also trying to uphold the American justice system and ideals. And this thing plays really well today, especially with a lot of stuff that's been going on within the past few years, and the situation where American ideals are really easy to espouse when there's nothing on the line, when everything's going fine, when the waters are smooth, and then immediately when things go bad, you're like, put them in detention camps. So, and that mentality just keeps going on. So James Donovan, played by Tom Hanks here, has a duty to give this guy the best trial that he can, regardless of his status as a spy. And that starts to ruffle feathers. Alan Alda is great in a small role as Donovan's boss, and it's great just seeing this guy that's standing up for something, even if it's an uncomfortable situation, even for him. It's not self-serving in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't want to free a spy. But in this case, it's a spy that's not an American spy. This happened shortly after the Goldbergs were found out, and this was a case of a foreign spy on these shores, and Donovan decided to play the card of what happens if one of our spies, because that's kind of the whole drive of this film, is we're morally outraged by the fact that there's a spy in America. Meanwhile, it's 100% go ahead, and the world is on our side for spying on Russia in this Cold War situation. So James Donovan had the foresight to pitch this idea of, well, what if we don't just kill this guy outright and use him as a possible bargaining chip if one of our spies get captured? And then the story shifts into the story of Gary Powers, who was a U-2 pilot spying over Russia when he was shot down. And of course, Russians were outraged over this horrific act that the U.S. had performed upon him. So the film really shifts gears there and focuses on Donovan traveling to Berlin at the dawn of the Berlin Wall. East and West is being physically divided, and a side story breaks out in which a student is caught on the wrong side of the wall and detained. So now there are two possible captives that can be traded for this Russian spy. So from there on out, there's a lot of tension as Donovan tries to, again, do the right thing. And doing the right thing is never an easy task. I mean, he goes to the Supreme Court when everyone wanted him not to for one bit. And then in this, he's trying to free as many people as he can. And the government isn't really that excited about freeing the student. They want to free Powers, and especially before any kind of grilling and interrogation can be done and U-2 secrets can be spilled. So there's a lot of not really over the top, gripping tension. It's just this kind of this steady pulsing unease that goes through the film from that point on. And throughout that, there's this whole kind of subcurrent wherein James Donovan and Rudolph Abel have this basic respect for one another, and trying to balance that with what the right thing to do is for Donovan, his family, his country, for the legal system, etc. It's a lot of meat in this film, and I thought it was capably done. So bravo to Steven Spielberg for pulling that together. And Tom Hanks really kills it as Donovan. Mark Rylance is really good as Rudolph Abel, and just kind of delivers that quiet, determination and kind of peace and calm, which is really fascinating too. I love that's recurring theme wherein Donovan's wondering why this guy is so calm and why he isn't freaking out. So yeah, really cool stuff. So how's this thing look? And it's a Spielberg film, so there's going to be some visual verve. I mean, right off the bat, one of the first shots is Rudolph Abel painting, and you have him in the middle, and then you have a reflection of his image on the left side of the screen, on the frame, in a mirror, and on the right side of the frame is a painting he's doing, because he's doing a self-portrait. So it's just right off the bat, there's an amazing shot. The composition is framed just great, and it's such a cool concept of the multi-faced god. And from there on out, there's a lot of material in Brooklyn, there's a lot of material in Berlin, and a lot of the filming was done in the actual locations or near the actual locations where some of these events happened. So Janusz Kaminski is on here as DP, and it's not a vibrant, colorful film. Even the stuff in Brooklyn, there's some moments of warmth, but essentially it's fairly steely. And then when it moves over to Berlin, it gets even more steely and just kind of snowy and gray and really just bleak looking. So it's not an amazing, oh my god, Jurassic Park-esque colorful sensation for the eyes, but it does have a lot of great contrast. There's a lot of pop within the lights and the darks, and a lot of great shadow detail. So very, very competent looking transfer. The DTS Master Audio 7.1 track is an actual stunner. I really enjoyed it. There's not a lot of Saving Private Ryan-esque explosions. The closest you get to an audio tour de force of that magnitude is when Gary Powers and the U2 plane is shot down. Some really intense stuff there. But what I was really struck by was just the creativity of the sound field for just normal things. Some of the noises in Brooklyn, some of the noises in the courtroom when all the flash bulbs were torn out of the cameras and just dropped on the ground, and you could hear them tinkling, cracking, and being crunched underfoot all around you. That's the stuff that really kind of captured my attention in this. And there's a lot of that stuff, really discrete surrounds going on. So while it might, and the LFE really gets to work out on some of that stuff with the U2, etc. And of course, John Williams wasn't able to score the film, so Thomas Newman performs the score, but actually similar and sometimes in tone to what he did with Spectre. But there's some good string swells and all that stuff to get the low end going there. But I thought this was a really well thought out surround sound experience, and yeah, sounds great. There's no commentary track from Spielberg, but there are some good extras on here. There's a handful of featurettes. There's 4, including A Case of the Cold War, Bridge of Spies, which introduces you right away to Steven Spielberg's dad, who has his own connection to this story. And you get to meet the son of Gary Powers, who was also a consultant on the film. So really interesting stuff, and you get to learn a little bit more about the real-life characters of the film. There's also the U2 spy plane one, which uses some archival voiceover material of Gary Powers and talks more about the plane itself and how there is an existing plane around still, and how they were able to use that in the film. There's Berlin 1961, Recreating the Divide. That was some really fascinating stuff, showing how they attempted to at least stage events like Glinicky Bridge at the actual location where the Bridge of Spies spy transfer actually happened. And other times, like Checkpoint Charlie and other checkpoints, etc., like how they were able to recreate as close as possible the look of it, even if they weren't there at the exact time. And then there's Spy Swap, looking back in the final act, which shows a lot of the behind the scenes of the actual finale of the film. And really, really cool stuff. They mentioned that they actually shot this thing, if it wasn't fully consecutive per the script, it was pretty close to it. So it was the finale of the film was actually shot last, which was really cool. So Bridge of Spies was really entertaining film. It's a little bit long-ish, 141 minutes. And obviously they did compress time. They made some things happen that didn't actually happen yet in the exact time that James Donovan was in Berlin, and some screenplay adaptation wizardry was done here and there, but there's really nothing to complain about. It's a really solid Spielberg flick. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot, so check it out for yourself, and yeah, let me know what you think. So cheers, everybody. I think I'll be back with another Blu-ray review in a minute, so hold on tight, and yeah, thanks for hanging out here. Cheers.